Hello everyone and welcome to Stan the Wine Man TV. I am your host, Stan Rattan, and this is the Blue Collar Wine program where we want to remind you that wine is not a mystery, it's just a beverage. How you doing everyone? Glad you could join me. We're coming up on a busy week. Valentine's Day is on Friday. Valentine's Day on a Friday is a good call. Love it when it lands on a Friday. A lot going on. Don't forget, you guys, to get your sweetheart something good, perhaps a bottle of wine. We will have a program coming up on suggestions for Valentine's Day. And you know, the main thing about Valentine's Day is you got to know what the person you're buying for likes, and hopefully you're paying attention. I know my wife likes vodka, so I can get her a bottle of vodka. She also likes Riesling, but she's not big into the wine thing, which is hard to believe, but it's true. But she's very, very supportive. I appreciate it, sweetheart. You support me on everything I do, and I really, really appreciate that. Also coming up this week, I'm doing a wine tasting event called 15 Under 15 in February, where we present 15 wines under $15, and people can come in and taste the wines. It's $5 a head, hardly anything. The idea is for people to find wines that they like for under $15. It's a fun event. I don't know how many years now I've been doing this thing, but it's been quite a while. 5-6 years now we've been doing this 15 Under 15 in February. It's been real successful. Everybody gets excited about it. And I got the girls from down south, from UG, United Grocers, from Peterson Cheese are coming up to present some deli items at the event too, which will be fun. They always do an excellent job. So I'm looking forward to that. Got a lot going on there. You know, still boasting the Seahawks gear. Really excited about that. Now we're talking about who they're going to keep. They got a lot of free agency coming up. Who are they going to keep? Everybody thinks they should keep Michael Bennett, for sure. And Baldwin, wide receiver, for sure. That's what I'm hearing so far. We'll see how it goes. I'd love to see him repeat. Hard to do. Parade down in Seattle this past week. Unbelievable. Over 700,000 people came to cheer on their Super Bowl winning champions. Incredible. Gave you shivers just watching it. They had shivers too because it was really, really cold down there. Well, today we're going to focus on Spanish wines, in particular Tempranillo. I find some of the best values in the world come from Spain. And you probably might have already discovered that. I mean, Spain is well known for Rioja, but they have so many great Jumila, however you want to say it, Yecla, Toro. They have Ribera Del Duero, which we're doing now. They have many, many regions that produce some outstanding wines. So we're going to spend a couple episodes just looking at Spanish wines. The next episode will be on Monastrell. But today we're going to focus on Tempranillo because there's no doubt about it. Tempranillo is one of Spanish's top varietals that they play with, that they make wines with. In fact, Rioja and Tempranillo are synonymous with each other. I mean, that's what they make Rioja out of. As far as red wines go, they do some blending, but basically it's Tempranillo. They call it the Spanish Pinot Noir because it sometimes can be delicate, have a lot of nuances to it, but sometimes it can be pretty robust wine also. And I know Pinots from California sometimes can be robust, but Tempranillo in a different way. Not so much fat, sunshine, but just in a more robust way. I believe it is different. In my personal opinion, I believe it's a little bit different than Pinot Noir, but that's what some people refer to it as, the Spanish Pinot Noir. So we have 3 Tempranillos here, 2 from Rioja and 1 from Ribera del Duero. But let's start off with the first one from Rioja, the 2010 Sierra Cantabria, Rioja. And this is done in a Roble, excuse me. This does not have a, and I was interested in this one, because this does not have a, here's a label for you. This rolls in at $11, which is, not too much to spend on a bottle of wine. This Santa Cantabria is produced by a very well-known producer in Spain, and it has no Crianza, Reserva, or Grand Reserva designation on it. So it could be Joven style, Joven, Joven, which means young or youthful, and usually has very little oak treatment, if any. So let's see how this one plays out. I was interested that it didn't have any designation, because usually it will say Crianza, which means that it's been aged in barrel at least 1 year and 1 year in bottle. So 2 years before it's released. So this is a 2010, so it was released, it was actually produced or released in 2012 or later. Depends, but that's, no, not this one. Excuse me. I have a Crianza here that was 2 years, sorry, I got ahead of myself. Crianza means 1 year in barrel, 1 year in bottle, so from the time of harvest, it is released 2 years later. Reserva is 1 year in barrel, minimum 1 year in barrel, 2 years aged in bottle. That's a Reserva. Then there's Grand Reserva, which is 2 years aged in barrel, minimum, and they can do it longer if they want. 2 years aged in barrel, and 5 to 7 years before release. So 2 in barrel, 3 in bottle, then it's released. Sometimes they go to a full 7 years from the time of harvest until it's released. So that's kind of the way Spain works. But this is a Rioja that has none of those indicators on it, which I find very interesting. So it could be a Joven, Hoven, however you want to say it, which means that it's a young wine and that it has maybe a little bit of wood treatment, maybe not. Let's give it a try, see what we get on the nose. So it's very fresh on the nose. I get a little bit of dust component, which is interesting. There's definitely some tobacco there. I get blackberry and currants. But it does have a fresh component on the nose. It's, excuse me just a minute, I'll find some white paper here. So the color is, it's fairly intense, if you can see that. It's got like a kind of a violet color to it, but fairly intense. Got a really kind of lighter rim to the wine. So it's got a little bit of a leather component also. Let's see what we get on the palate. There's some oak on this. That's for sure, a little bit. It makes me curious about. I have to do some research on this one, and a little more research. I tried to do some research, couldn't really find a lot about it. I did think it said it's done in a Roble style, so that means it has oak on it. I did see that. I'm pretty sure I saw that when I was looking this up. But definitely get the oak. There's a little vanilla. I get a lot of currant notes, a little bit of leather on the backside. Very kind of like forest floor elements on the finish, which is very interesting. A little minerality. I'm finding this pretty curious. It's imported by Elliott Bay Distributing. It's not super complex. It's a little bit soft on the palate. It has a, it's kind of one-dimensional. I get that kind of a earthiness, which I like. That's a good thing. For those of you that want a little bit of earth in your wine, you just don't want to get away from those fruit bombs, this is a good play for $11. I think it's a good bottle of wine in that particular avenue. There's a blackberry currant component, front to back, with that earthiness at the very end. It's kind of it's a little bit boring. I think it's a little bit of a boring wine, but I do like that minerality. I like that forest floor element on the backside, which is very good. It kind of saves the wine. Doesn't have a lot going on, but that back end, I like that a lot. Keep yourself in check there. So, no, I do. I like that forest floor kind of earthiness at the backside. If it wasn't for that, I wouldn't like this wine. I'm going to give it a C+. It's a good, for that element, it's a good wine. If you're looking for that style, then definitely go for it. Let's move on to the next one. Tierras Guindas Roble, meaning wood, from Ribera del Duero. Now, Ribera del Duero is a, let's give you, before we start yakking too much, Ribera del Duero is about 60 miles, there you go, you see that? Good. Is about 60 miles southwest of Rioja. And Rioja, of course, is the premier wine region of Spain. A lot of the great Riojas of the world, a lot of the great red wines out of Spain come from Rioja. Has great name recognition. But Ribera del Duero is fast becoming one of the top producers of red wine. A very famous producer that is out of Ribera del Duero is Vega Sicilia. And if you've never had a bottle of Vega Sicilia, you cannot drink that baby young. It ages beautifully. It's a great bottle of wine. I had an opportunity to taste a 2000 Vega Sicilia at my birthday. I had some friends over, and it was fantastic. So Vega Sicilia, this one, oh, by the way, this one rolls in at $11 also. But there's also many other great wines coming out of Ribera del Duero, and it's really is becoming one of the premier red producing areas of Spain. And they do Tempranillo and Grenache mainly. Those are the two main grapes of Ribera del Duero. And I've had some great wines from that region, a lot of great wines from that region. So I'm excited to try this one. And let's look at it. Let's look at the color. Now this one's much darker. I don't know if you can see that very well from there, but definitely a lot darker. I get more of a deep, dark garnet color out of it, and a little light, a little darker on the rim on that one. Let's see what we get on the nose. So this has a very interesting, almost like a spice element coming through. A lot of leather. I get like a spice leather and a little bark. I get a little beauty bark, tobacco. And a lot of currants coming through on this wine. I like the nose on this. Let's see what we get on the palate. Same grape, both 100% Tempranillo. This one is, as we were talking, a lot more robust on the palate. You get a bigger blast of fruit, but it's not anywhere close to what we'd call jammy. It's got good structure, big black currants with kind of an underlying blackberry element to it. And then it just like dries out on the finish. It gets like this mineral, kind of almost like a iron component going on. But the fruit stays there. I mean, the fruit doesn't disappear and just give its way to minerals. It's not like all big fruit and then nothing and then minerals. It's got good balance. I mean, nice flow across the palate. It's only $11. I'm excited about this wine. Yeah, it's pretty interesting because you get those like this. Excuse me. A lot of like this big, like I said, not jammy, but definitely get a little, kind of like a little vanilla edge to it. And like some sweet tannins, good structure, it feels full bodied, then you can feel it. As it goes towards the back of the palate, you can just feel it drying out. Drying out into minerals and iron and crushed rock and that lingers on the backside. A little grippiness from the tannins. It says, okay, this is a, what did I say the vintage? 2011. Pretty serious. For $11, I'm willing to venture that this wine could age easily for the next 5 to 8 years. Easily. And get better. Because that fruit's there, the tannins are there, the minerality is there. I think they'll eventually kind of all marry together, making a really nice, balanced, smooth wine front to back. I'm going to buy a couple bottles, tuck it away, and test my theory on that one. And sometimes that's fun to do, especially when they're only $11. I've got I think about 4 bottles of it. I spent $8 a bottle on a wine that Robert Parker had given, what did he give it? Like 90 points. You know, and I'm not always sold on wine critics and how they review wine, but that's pretty good for Parker. I mean, 90 points. And so I tucked 4 away. I said, let's open 1 in 3 years, see how it does, and then see if it's aging, because he did mention it. Did have a lot of minerality like this one. So yeah, I'm going to buy a few bottles of these, tuck them away, see how they do. If you have the patience and the self-control, put a couple away. It's really fun. Find a place that has a moderate temperature that kind of doesn't fluctuate a lot. Don't worry about having the perfect cellar. Just find a spot in your house or in your garage or wherever you want to put it that kind of stays at the same temperature. You don't want it to get hot, that's for sure. So, if it stays around 60 to 45, just kind of stays in that general area, it's good enough. You don't have to get fancy. Just find that spot. I remember I lived in one spot where I tucked it under my bathroom sink because for some reason, just where it was in the house, underneath the bathroom sink stayed a constant, nice temperature of about 56 degrees. It was perfect. Now I keep them out in my garage. It's insulated. It never gets hot in there. Never gets too cold. It's perfect, and the wines age beautifully. So, even a little bit of just a slight touch of licorice. I'm liking this wine. Tierras Guindas 2011 Roble, meaning wood. 100% Tempranillo from Ribera Del Duero. Great value, great bottle of wine. I'd look for it. It's actually, if you live up in the Pacific Northwest, it is distributed by American Northwest Distributors. So remember that, American Northwest Distributors. That is if you live in Washington State. All right, so we give the wine a little rinse. Now we're going to move on to Cune, very well-known producer in Rioja, 2009 Crianza. So that means that it was aged at least 1 year in barrel and 1 year aged in the bottle. So let's give a little sneak peek at that one. There you go. So Cune does a really good job with their wines. So I'm excited to try this one. So exactly what I'd expect on the nose, and this is no doubt, I'm trying to see if it says from, let's read here. Yeah, it's made from Tempranillo grapes. So, 3 Tempranillos. I love the nose on this. It's exactly what I would expect out of a Crianza. It has a little bit of that stink action going on, which is not uncommon with a lot of leather and tobacco. It's got a little perfumey kind of sweet element coming through on the nose. I get a little blackberry and currant just like the other ones. So the color on this one, not quite as dark as the Ribera Del Duero. Not quite as dark, but it's half actually kind of in between the first one and the Ribera del Duero Tempranillo. So there you go. It's the rim is not quite as bright as the first one. Definitely get the oak notes. You get that kind of a cigar box, cedar box sort of nose going on. The stink is starting to come off, because it came out of this tiny opening. Now it's in a bigger area, so that stink kind of blows off. I just love... Now, I don't know about you, but I like these kind of old world, kind of dirty, not dirty, but like dirt and leather and, all that forest floor element coming through. There are so many fruit bombs out there, which, from time to time, I'm a big Zinfandel guy. The next episode, we're going to be doing some Monastrell or Mourvedres from Spain. Those are many times can be big, juicy wines. Every wine has a time and a place. But sometimes I just like these earthier wines. They're sometimes more interesting. They're definitely food wines. This would be, I can just tell right away, this would be great with a leg of lamb. It would be great with a stew. It'd be good with a red pasta sauce, some spaghetti with mushrooms in the sauce. I can tell right off the bat. And there's actually kind of a grapey component coming through, like, a little bit of a Smucker's grape jam thing going on. Let's see what it does on the palate. Very similar to the Ribera del Duero version, but not quite as intense and big on the front of the palate. It has this polished tannins right up front, a lot of blackberry currant action going on, very smooth up front. But then, just like the Ribera del Duero, it starts drying out. You get that minerality, a little iron, a lot of earthiness, a little leather, tobacco, very dry on the finish. But it's balanced. It actually doesn't dry out as quick as the Ribera del Duero did. Definitely has some wood characters. I get the wood tannins on the backside, but it's not over the top. It's you don't have to get out the tweezers and pull the wood out of your gums. This one will age easily. Now, this is only $12. I forgot to mention that. Look at that. I mean, you're getting some really good wines for 11 to 12 bucks, which is crazy. It's crazy. And the Cuney is definitely has some solid minerality, crushed rock on the finish. I'm getting this like almost like a cranberry, tobacco cranberry thing going on the backside. Some like red cherry elements coming through. And it's lingering around there, and you can really get that crushed rock, cherry, cranberry, leather thing going on. I mean, have this with some lamb? Are you serious? It would be a great play, killer bottle of wine with that type of a meal. And again, any sort of a red sauce with a bunch of mushrooms thrown in there, this would match up very nicely with that wine. And again, this is a bottle you could tuck away, experiment with. I mean, 12 bucks, go out and buy a couple bottles, tuck them away, forget about them, try them in 5 years. You're definitely going to see some improvement on this wine. It just proves to me that Spain has some great values. I mean, yeah, you can spend more money than this. And, you know, Vegas Sicilia, they're over $100 a bottle out of Ribera Del Duero. There's definitely some Riojas out there, some Grand Reservas that demand a lot of money. But if you just want a good bottle of earthy wine or a fresh wine or something to experiment with in your cellar without, you know, doing a boatload of money, you know, these are great plays. They're great bottle of wine. So I gave this one a C. I'm going to give the Tierras Guindas, I'm going to give this one a C plus, not B minus, and I'm going to go B on the Cune. So B, B minus, C, and those are not bad grades for what you're getting for the money. So, thanks for watching. I'm looking forward. This is number 31. Looking forward to many more to come. Thanks for joining me. Cheers, and here's to keeping the snob out of wine.